Again, my name is Tessa Wiedmann. I'm a software engineer at Microsoft Education, and I'll be talking today a little bit about Microsoft's Immersive Reader. And you can always find me if you have any questions on Twitter at Tessalyn_N. Today, a little bit about what is the Immersive Reader, why should you want to use it, and how you can incorporate it into your own apps. So I'm actually going to start with a little demo about what the Immersive Reader is first. And all of this information that I'm going to be talking about, you can find by going to aka.ms/immersive reader, and it'll take you straight to this page where it'll have all of the information that I'll be covering. But first, I did want to start with a little bit of a demo. And so the basic idea of Immersive Reader is that you can give it your own content from any piece of your app that you would like, whether it's text or some other content types I'll be discussing in a little bit. But the idea is you can give it this content, you could launch Immersive Reader, and it'll pull you into this full screen mode where you can do a lot of different things that helps the text or the content be more accessible for your users. And so one of the features of Immersive Reader is that you can play out loud.
Immersive Reader is an Azure cognitive service.
You can change how fast or how slow that voice goes. You can choose female or male voices. You can change the text size, make it bigger or smaller. You can change the fonts, the background colors. For me, my favorite is this pink. Helps me read better. If you, at the top right, there's more options of things you can add to Immersive Reader. You can turn syllables on, so it breaks the words into different syllables, into different parts of speech. So that might be something that might be helpful for your users. And then at the top right, there's also reading preferences, where you can turn line focus on. So if you want to look at just one line at a time, for example, you can do that. It'll scroll with you as you read out loud. And one of my favorite features is this translate option. And so I speak German, so I would like to practice my German a little bit more. I can turn document translation on, and I can actually have the entire document get translated for me. And one of the other cool features is Picture Dictionary, where you can click on a word. It'll show you a picture of that word, and this word just happens to be the same in English and in German, but you can hear it.
Apps.
There you go. So there's a bunch of different options that you can use in Immersive Reader that might make it more accessible for your users. And so that's a basic demo of Immersive Reader. You can see on the left side here those different features that I just spoke about. And this on the right here is an example of what it might look like in one of our partner integrations in Flipgrid, for example. They have some text here, and then they have an Immersive Reader button. So when you click that button, it makes that text on their web page more accessible and easier to read for their users. And again, all of that information you can find at aka.ms/immersive reader. And a little bit more about Immersive Reader is that it was inclusively designed to help people of all abilities with their reading, specifically for people with dyslexia, ADHD, emerging readers, non-native speakers, people with visual impairments. And it's currently already used in Microsoft products across the board, in Word, in OneNote, in Teams, many different places, and we have about 23 million monthly active users already using it. And that includes in Microsoft products, but also Immersive Reader is now generally available as a Microsoft cognitive service, so that third-party developers like you can integrate it into their own apps. So, and that was opened in October of this past year. So now it's available for anyone to integrate into their own apps. And I'll be talking a little bit about how you can do that. And so some more reasons of why you might want to use Immersive Reader. If you're concerned about inclusion and equity, if you're looking to be compliant with accessibility laws, if you're looking for something that has a low cost and an easy engineering entry, those are all great reasons for why you might want to look into incorporating Immersive Reader into your apps. Some feedback that we've had from our customers, which I have experienced firsthand when it was still safe to go to conferences because of COVID, of people that are really moved by this technology. There's a quote here: "I just wanted to let you know that today a mom spoke to me and she started crying. Her son was finally able to read on his own thanks to Immersive Reader. I'm currently changing the lives of so many children through that software." So it's a really powerful tool, and I'm hopefully going to show you how easy it is to incorporate it into your own web apps. Here's a little bit more, if you're still not sold, awards that Immersive Reader has won, including an Innovation Practice Award. And there's also studies that have been done that show improved reading and writing outcomes from students that have been using Immersive Reader. So there are studies as well to back this technology up. And here are some examples of third-party partners that have already integrated Immersive Reader. We have Wonderopolis, Pear Deck, Canvas, My Day, all sorts of different partners who have seen the benefits of Immersive Reader and have integrated it into their own apps. I'd like to talk a little bit about how you can incorporate Immersive Reader into your own apps now. And again, all of this information you can find at aka.ms/Immersive Reader. And Immersive Reader has become generally available through Microsoft Cognitive Services this past October. And the pricing for it is that if you're sending less than 3 million characters per month to us, that it's free. So if you're a small app, it's not a price that you have to worry about. After those 3 million per month characters, it's $10 per additional million characters after that. And if you're an ed tech company or you're a large volume customer, there are discounts you can get as well. And our SDK, which I'll be talking a little bit about, lets you incorporate Immersive Reader into web apps, iPad, iPhone, Android, and Windows 10. And we've got all sorts of documentation and engineering walkthrough videos and other resources that will help you do that. And some common questions people might have are, you showed us plain text being able to be sent into Immersive Reader. What else might you support? If you have math that you want to show in the Immersive Reader, if it's in the MathML format, that would work. If you have just HTML you want to send in, as long as it doesn't have images or tables, that will work. We are working on image and PDF support currently, but basically any sort of text content that you want to send in is something that we will support. And so I did want to now take you through a little bit of our documentation, show it in action, and just I'm going to keep reiterating these 3 points about the 3 things you need in order to incorporate Immersive Reader into your own apps. The first thing you need is an Azure account. The second thing you need is an Immersive Reader resource in that Azure account. And the third thing is to use our Immersive Reader SDK, our JavaScript library, to incorporate it into your apps. And we have documentation and videos and all of that available. So, and again, aka.ms/Immersive Reader is the place to go. So I'll go there right now. It just takes you to this page right here. And I'm going to click at the top. I'm going to click on documentation. It's going to take me down to the documentation section of the page. And so I'm going to click first on Immersive Reader SDK. I'm going to check it out. And so this SDK is open source on GitHub, which does mean that it's open for people to make contributions to. So if there are if there's something you would like to contribute, we definitely welcome that. We've got issues open. We're an active community, and we would definitely encourage that. This GitHub is also the place where all of our quick start guides live. So if there's ever an update you want to make to that to make it easier for other people to get started with Immersive Reader, that would be awesome as well. So I'm actually going to click into the JS folder here, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the basic building blocks that you need to incorporate Immersive Reader. And there really isn't too many steps. The first thing that you're going to need, as I mentioned earlier, is that you need an Immersive Reader resource in Azure. And we have all sorts of instructions and guides and videos on how to do that. But for the purposes of this lightning talk, I'm going to assume that you've already done that. And once you have that resource set up, really the only chunks of things you're going to need to do are to somehow get our JavaScript library, whether that's through a script tag that you put in your HTML, or if you're an NPM or a Yarn user, you can add our node package, our Immersive Reader package, and then you'll have our Immersive Reader JavaScript. And then the other basic thing you're going to need is some way to launch the Immersive Reader, which is generally a button that a user will click, because it will launch something in full screen. So you want to make sure that it's something the user actually wants to do. And then when that button or event is fired, all you're going to need to do is call this launch async method from our Immersive Reader SDK. And the launch async method takes a token, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a second, the subdomain, which will come from setting up your Immersive Reader resource in Azure, and then the content that you want to send into the Immersive Reader, as well as any options that you want. That's a fourth parameter. And those really are the only pieces that you need in order to launch Immersive Reader. You need that Azure resource, you need our SDK, our library, you need some way to launch the Immersive Reader, and you need that launch to call the Immersive Reader.launch async, and that's really all you have to do. So additionally, I'm going to go back now to aka.ms/Immersive Reader, and I'm going to show you a little bit more of an in-depth view into one of our quick starts. So that was an overview of what you might need to do, and then I'll go a little bit more into detail and show you some of our documentation. So I'm going to click on this Get Started, Read Our Documentation link. And you can see here it's taken us to a docs.microsoft.com page, and there are a few different types of documentation that we have that lives here. We have some overviews and some short getting started engineering videos. We've got some how-to guides that go into a little bit more depth about the different options that you can send into the Immersive Reader. There's a link to the JavaScript SDK on GitHub, which I was just showing you. And then there's a few different quick starts listed here in different platforms. So if you're building something with C# in ASP.NET Core, or if you're building an iOS or an Android application, or if you're building a web app, we have quick starts for all of those different languages. Here's my cat. So we have quick starts available for all of those different languages. And so I'm going to be showing you the Node.js quick start. And you can see here that those different language options are available as well. And it's going to list, again, those prerequisites. The first one being that you have that Immersive Reader resource created in Azure, and that you have those steps will take you through creating that resource, and then you'll eventually be left at the end of those steps with these 4 pieces of information that you'll need to keep moving forward. You'll have a tenant ID, a client ID, a client secret, and a subdomain. And all 4 of those things you'll have already acquired by the end of going through the guide for how to create that Immersive Reader resource. And those 4 things are secret, so they're not going to want to be something that you put in the plain text of your code. And so in this quick start, for example, they're using the .env node package to hide those values behind a config file. So that's just one example of how you might do this if you're building a Node.js application. Another thing we recommend is that you put some sort of authentication in front of Immersive Reader so that you don't, so that you prevent unauthorized users from obtaining tokens to use against your Immersive Reader resource. So basically, you just don't want anybody to be able to go and open Immersive Reader and send in millions of characters and drive your Azure bill up. But that's definitely up to you. That's what we recommend. And so one way of potentially doing that is to use OAuth to get some tokens. And in this quick start, we're specifically using an Express router to set up this new endpoint, which is called get token and subdomain. And it makes a call to this OAuth endpoint to get a token. And you can see here it's passing in some of those secrets that we had set up in the config file. And it returns a token and subdomain. So that's one thing you might want to set up, is that authentication layer. And then this next part of the quick start is the actual HTML of the app. And you can see here again that there is this script tag here that pulls in the Immersive Reader SDK. And so again, if the script tag directly isn't what you want to do, you can always use npm or yarn to install our SDK package as well. And then you can see in the body of the HTML that there is content that we're going to want to send into the Immersive Reader. And there is an Immersive Reader button. And that Immersive Reader button, you can see in the JavaScript that's on the page, when it's clicked, we want to call handle launch Immersive Reader. And if you look at what handle launch Immersive Reader does, it calls that get token and subdomain function, which makes the call to that endpoint that we had set up, which will return the token and subdomain once it has confirmed that it's from an authenticated user. And once we get that token, then we can start building the different things we want to pass into that Immersive Reader launch async method that I had mentioned earlier. So that token that we had just gotten, we pass in. The subdomain that we just got, we pass in. The data, so the actual title of the Immersive Reader view and the actual data or the content that you want to send in. And then the options. And one of the many options you can send in is an exit callback. So if you want a specific method to run as soon as the user closes Immersive Reader, we can make sure that happens. But we have a bunch of additional documentation on the left side here of the different options and things you can pass into Immersive Reader. But basically, those are the building blocks of what you need in order to run Immersive Reader. You need that Azure resource, you need some sort of way to, if you prefer, some sort of authentication in order to get a token, and then you just need our Immersive Reader SDK in order to call Immersive Reader.launch async. And those are really the only pieces you need to start making your app more accessible for all of your users. And so I just wanted to end with, if you have any questions, you can use the Immersive Reader tag on Stack Overflow. It is a tag that our engineering team looks at very frequently. If you have any questions, you can always use that, or you can reach out to me on Twitter. Again, I'm on Twitter at Tessalyn_N.